When I started using my voice for social impact, I didn't know I was doing that, right? Like when you are so passionate about something and you want others to be just as passionate or hear your passion, you should post on your own social media first. You should create your own platform, build up your own network of folks, and grow from there.
Welcome back to Social Media for Social Impact, the podcast where we explore how digital creativity and storytelling can inspire real change. Social media isn't just about influence, it's about impact. I'm very excited to share that I'm joined by Dr. Summer Jabbar, an inclusion and belonging champion, nonprofit advancement leader, and education advocate. She currently serves as Director of Advancement at AYA Youth Collective, where she's helping drive meaningful support for youth experiencing housing instability. Summer, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me today, Misha.
So, Summer, can you share what first drew you to this kind of impact work?
So I think as a kid, no kid wakes up and they're like, oh, I'm going to do equity and belonging when I grow up. But I
Mhm.
think we all have these experiences that really shape us at a young age. And it's not until we're older that it makes sense how we ended up where we are. So I think just growing up in a community that did not have a lot of folks that look like me, who spoke the same language as me, who looked like my parents, my family, really connected those things in my brain that this should not be normal, right? Like I should not be going to school or to grocery stores or wherever and not see folks that look like me, especially in these higher up positions. So principals, teachers, anybody that I was coming in contact with, nobody ever reflected what my family and I look like. And it was a mission for me to make sure that as I got older and things were more in my control, that I could go ahead and kind of shift that thinking for a lot of young students and kids as they're growing up so that they could see more folks who look like them.
That's so inspirational. I know you and I shared that common thread of growing up in communities where we typically didn't have a lot of folks that looked like us, and we've connected about that a lot. And it's really fascinating to see that your own story has shaped the way you think about inclusion and community. I know in the past, Summer, you've also said that belonging is different from just diversity or inclusion. How do you define those terms and why does it matter so much in today's world?
It's a really good question. I think, yes, all those terms equity, diversity, inclusion, belonging they all have very different specific meanings that are so useful in everyday life and how we view systems and policies and opportunities for folks. I think what really sets belonging apart is you cannot have belonging in an institution or an organization or whatever that looks like without having the other pieces there as well. So, in order to have belonging, you do have to have equity and inclusion and diversity. Those three things are the components that make up belonging. When I think of belonging, I like to view it as a pyramid, similar to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We know that anybody, children, students, the elderly, us, anybody needs these basic needs to feel accepted and a part of society. Those things are like shelter, food, security of a home, things like that. And then as you continue on to this pyramid of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that third level is psychological safety and belonging. That's a piece that you can only get to if other things are already laid out for you to step onto. So the diversity, the equity, and the inclusion are these building steps that kind of get you to this plateau of belonging. And oftentimes, organizations are really good at speaking these terms out and putting them on their website and drawing this diverse candidate pool because we read these things and we want to be a part of the work. But then you get to the organization, and unfortunately, sometimes those pieces are not really set into stone. They're kind of floating around and not really what you imagine it to be. So it's disappointing. And then that in turn creates a lack of belonging. When I think of belonging, I like to think of it as the opportunity for me to show up fully as myself, authentically, as much of myself as I want to bring into that space. So a lot of people will say, show up, bring 100% you. I don't want to. I want to bring 100% of my energy, 100% of my love, things like that. But there are pieces of me that I like to keep separate from different spaces of work and from spaces of the public that I like to reserve for my home or my husband or just my family, those pieces that are really intimate. So I'm looking for belonging as an aspect of I'm able to show up comfortably and authentically as much as I'm able to and want to, and that is fully received. So I can bring my ideas, I can bring questions, I can bring curiosity, I can bring suggestions into a space and it is fully accepted. We can have that open dialogue. I can speak about if something hurts me. I can speak about, something I may not agree with without the fear of backlash or without the fear of being persecuted, essentially, right? Because we have that space of belonging.
This is so powerful, especially the part about setting the boundaries and making sure that you are bringing 100% of your energy to the table, but also acknowledging that, there is a time and space to bring your personal experiences and reserve that for your loved ones. And the reason we have this podcast today is because social media is really a powerful tool, and more users are joining the platforms each and every day. And a lot of the folks that are joining are very susceptible to what is being said on social. And they're also looking at social media as a space to feel like they belong. And that's why it's so important to have your take on this, because I want to know how, in your opinion, nonprofits and advocates can use social media to go beyond awareness and clicks and actually drive action. And in this case, it would be fostering a sense of belonging.
Misha, I think you bring up a lot of good points that scholars and researchers have never really had to grapple with before because now more than ever, social media is how a lot of us are getting our news, it's how a lot of us are feeling a connection. It's how a lot of us are keeping up with each other simply because that's just the time we live in. We are all so busy and we're all so glued to our electronics. I think a few things when I think about how nonprofits can leverage their social media, their marketing online to be more inclusive, to create more belonging spaces. The first thing I would think of is language. Language is so crucial to making sure that your message is landing and landing well. We know so much so that your intent is only half of what the message is being received. So the intent and impact together are really how you will make something land. So you can have all the best intentions for something, but if we are not being intentional in how we're approaching it with our language and with our photos or with how we're advertising on what platforms, you're really going to have a big missed opportunity to reach the audience with the impact that you'd like them to have. So language absolutely is the first thing that I think of, being inclusive in our language, being affirming in our language, while also recognizing that people are consuming media all day. And if they are consuming things that are harmful to their growth, in terms of just a lot of negativity, a lot of horror going on in the world, if we keep seeing those things, your post, your blog, your picture, whatever it might be on social media, could be that minute of peace that that person is absorbing in that time. And I think that's a really huge thing we have to remember. That could be that 1 minute that that person has stopped doom scrolling, essentially, right? And has saw this
Mhm.
ad pop up or your media pop up. So wanting it to be engaging and intentional about how we're interacting with people. I also think social media, I think oftentimes is so much so set and geared toward the younger generation, which is true. They are very much so on social media. But we also don't want to miss all the other folks who are still on social media, right? We want to make sure that we are posting content that is applicable to any and every user. Again, that goes to that inclusivity mindset that we have to have when we're thinking of social media. I can't just make content with one group in mind, whether it's because of their age or their ethnicity or their religion. Like I need to think of all the folks that will be consuming this in order for it to make the impact that I want it to have. So, language, I think, is huge. And then also keeping in mind all the different groups of folks who will come across this, even if they've not heard of your organization yet or the work that you're doing, or maybe they've never heard of this term belonging in the way that you are describing it. This is an opportunity for them to learn, and we have to treat each opportunity to learn as a really big deal because a lot of times people are very closed off when they continue to see these horrible things that we are broadcasted to every single day, simply because that's what's happening in the world.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's really, really disheartening to see what's happening in the world. And I really admire the work you're doing locally, which is with your nonprofit. You're advancing opportunities for youth that are experiencing housing instability. Can you share a story that captures the human side of that work? And then also perhaps bring us examples of how you try to keep the digital media, social media efforts inclusive.
So at AYA, we do an incredible job at making sure that we are centering the voices of the youth that we're serving. So when we think of advancement efforts in terms of getting our name out there, getting out the mission, so more youth are able to access resources, we really do keep the youth at top of mind. We want to make sure that what we're asking for is what they are in need of. And I think one of the ways that we have been really successful in this is how we engage with folks who are donors or giving in terms of sponsorship or financials or even in basic needs drives. We are making sure that they know this is an opportunity for youth to take their own story and write their own narrative. We're there to support them. We're there to give them the resources that they are in need of. But ultimately, we want to empower the youth and not enable them, right? When you empower a certain group of folks or anybody in general, that gives them the confidence to keep making those decisions, to keep working on their success, to keep going down that journey, rather than us taking over and doing things for them like we often may want to do. That then cripples their growth, and we want to make sure that's not what we're doing. A way that we do this, I think, really well is we post on our socials all the time when we are low on donations. And that post, if we take out the photo that we may be using from this post, it says, "Hey, we are in need of deodorant, toothbrushes, toothpaste, whatever it may be. Can you donate? Here are the links. Here's the shipping address. Here's when we'll be there, blah, blah, blah." Those words are very powerful within themselves, but then we add a photo component to that of the empty bins. I think the empty bins really help bring that humanization to the work, that these things are actually being used every single day by youth who are in need of these items. I think the words plus the photo kind of capture all the audience members because we have youth, right, who may not be experiencing housing instability, who are following us on social media because maybe their friends are having housing instability or they learned about us and they want to support us. So they are able to view this content. But then we have other folks who may be very well seniored in their careers and own a home and have children who are youth or were youth, and they're just here to support the community members doing the work. They're also able to take that in because that picture is so captivated. It makes everyone stop and think, oh, you really have nothing left in this bin. I'm saying the powerful wording, the easy access to our Amazon links, to our wish list of items, the address there, the donation drop off times, all that information is readily available because we know too that when we're scrolling social media, we often don't go on sites to do more research or to click to find out more. If all the information isn't right there ready for us to consume in that minute, we often continue to scroll by it. So it's this kind of combo platter of impactful wording of us saying this is what we are in need of and who we are in need for. And then the photos showing the humanization of these items really are used every single day, as well as that readily available content. So you are able to consume that full post in one reading and do everything that we are hoping you can do in that call to action fairly quickly and rather easily. Because if you have to go get your credit card or Google our address, you're more likely to stop doing the act of giving and the act of supporting because then it becomes another chore, essentially.
Right. And we talk a lot about this in terms of grabbing immediate attention, making the action easy for the user, making sure in this attention economy where we just have a few seconds, right, of someone's attention, we want to make sure they take that action. And in your case, that would be giving. And I also imagine that you're tying in seasonal observances around the holidays. Can you talk a little bit about how you plan out specific campaigns and tie in those moments of giving essentially?
Absolutely. So I think the beautiful thing about AYA is we are very open in what we celebrate. So we want to be sure that we are meeting the needs of all youth no matter how they are coming to us. Is That's exactly perfect. We want them to come to us as they are, and we will meet them where they're at, and we truly mean that. In terms of if you are celebrating holidays that maybe we have not observed before or we've not even heard of, we want to learn more. We want you to be the expert and tell us about why this is important and how we can support you in that. We also know where we live statistically. Some holidays are more celebrated than others, given who is in the community. And we kind of prepare ourselves, we're proactive for those needs by doing things like creating a campaign around Christmas gifts. We have a lot of youth who celebrate Christmas, and a lot of times they've not had the opportunity to open Christmas gifts. So we start very early on collecting donations for those gifts. And when it comes to holidays that include holiday meals, typically, right, like Thanksgiving or maybe New Year's, we are very proactive in that ask as well with the community that we would love to give the youth a meal, like a traditional meal that we grew up with, perhaps on these holidays. How can you help us with this? So those campaigns and those asks are very prematurely planned out so that we are more proactive when we're getting to the campaign season rather than reactive, that we don't want to drop a ball, because when we drop the ball, we know that it is directly impacting youth, and that's a really hard thing for me to grapple with. I never want a youth to not have what they need because I dropped a ball or my team dropped a ball. We all work very hard to make sure that all of our bases are covered, and we approach youth in the same sense of accountability of, hey, are we missing something? Is there anything that you haven't gotten or you haven't seen that you wish we could do? Realistically speaking, what is it that we can do to meet this need? So we're really proactive in those asks, and we fortunately have a very giving community that also wants to support the youth in those.
That's beautiful. And I really appreciate the empathy there because I know from knowing you personally and having studied together and just communicating, you really care about these communities and you want to uplift them any way possible. I also know many nonprofits and organizations in general are strapped for time, resources, and budget, right? It truly takes a village. You can't do it alone. Are there different ways that your organization collaborates across industries, perhaps public private partnerships, or partners up with other organizations? And is that something you're seeing more and more of in this space?
Thank you so much for the kind words first, Misha. I think one of the things that I'm really proud of at AYA is that we are very humble in terms of what we bring to the table. So we are not the experts in all things, and we want to partner with folks who are the experts in things. So we are a very collaborative nonprofit. We recognize that there are other nonprofits or maybe private practices or whatever out there doing really great work also in the community. And it's not about creating more separation or more silos. It's about breaking those down so that we can meet the needs of the youth. And that's exactly what we do. We partner with over 25 community partners on different initiatives, including education, parenting and pregnant youth, and transportation and housing, like all these different pockets of resources in the community that we have who are doing really great work. We ask them to be a part of our work, and we ask, how can we be a part of your work? We have a really great referral system in-house that if we do not have a resource a youth needs, we have a plethora of other folks in the community who may have that resource, and we can refer out, and we get a lot of referrals in. So it's a very collaborative system that we are working with here. And maybe we are holding of some of the resources in terms of housing, but we are always willing to share and to figure out how do we make this work for the youth? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about making sure that they are getting what they need in order to be successful on their stability journey. What does that look like for them? Every youth is so unique in their needs that not everybody gets the same buttoned up package, right? And that's that equity piece. Whatever it is that you need, we're equitably trying to make sure that we can meet that need while being collaborative in the community, because we are humble enough to know we don't know all the things. And we are also confident enough to know that our resources are very helpful and others are as well.
Right. And this is so impactful because when I'm studying and researching the nonprofit world and also social entrepreneurs, which are essentially businesses that are trying to use the force of business as a force for good, we are looking at achieving this common goal. So rather than looking at other organizations as quote unquote competitors, you're essentially collaborators and you're always collaborating because the end goal is ultimately to serve those communities. And this is something I've been encouraging a lot of my clients to think about, that if you are in the space of impact and sustainability, and obviously in your case, a lot of the sustainability work centers around that third P. If you look at people, planet, profit, your work is very geared towards the people portion, but you ultimately are trying to leave behind a better world and healthier communities, and they're not things that are mutually exclusive.
Right.
So this really goes back to the core of why we have this conversation today, why I started the podcast, because I want business owners, but also leaders in the nonprofit space and higher ed and across the board to find out about all these amazing ways you can collaborate and then use digital storytelling to achieve that common goal. Summer, I would love to hear an example of a specific campaign that you feel has been the most successful. And in your case, success looks like, I assume, most youth members served, but do you have an example you can share with us?
I think one of the things that comes to mind, I think we do really successfully and really well, is our annual fundraising gala. You know, galas are not new to the nonprofit space. That is very much so a huge thing for nonprofits to make sure that they are meeting the goals they have set forth for their nonprofit. But what I would say is our gala, AYA, is specifically very unique in how we approach it. It is very much so a homey feel of a gala. If you've ever gone to a gala, oftentimes for me, I feel pretty uncomfortable. I'm in a dress that's way too expensive. I'm in a ballroom that I've never been in. I'm eating food that I can't pronounce. It's just like very odd feeling for me. And that's always something I've been very hesitant to attend, right? It's just something you have to do as a part of the role, but very difficult to feel comfortable in if that's not how you grew up. And I will say that AYA does a really great job at making sure our annual event does not feel like that. So we host every year an event called Coming Home, where we talk about youth and their opportunity to come home, essentially, right? In the spaces that we are able to provide through the community donations and through the support of other corporations as well. And the gala is always different themed, but essentially at the end of the day, it's always focused on the youth. We have youth in actual attendance at the gala, which I think is very special. And we have kind of a more of a dress down business casual event where we offer a lunch option or a dinner option, and it's a roaming meal. So you're walking around, you're talking to the community partners that are engaging in our work every day. You're talking to the youth who may be utilizing the resources every day. You're seeing all of our staff, the youth facing staff are there. My team is there, the CEO is there, everybody who is touching our nonprofit in any way is there, including our board of directors. And everyone is just so excited and elated to be in the room together because we know how difficult that can be. We have folks who come and talk about the housing program that we offer, and we talk about the drop-in center that we have. So it really is essentially an elevated lunch and learn. So people are very relaxed. We have an auction that happens where folks can bid on different things, and the money essentially is money that we're able to raise from the gifts that we're giving. But other than that, the other aspects of it are very non-gala-like, which I think is what makes it so successful, is people really look forward to doing it. We have games that we play and we pronounce a winner at the end. And it's just like a very laid back family event with a bunch of people who really do want to make a difference in the community. And typically, this gala is, we're seeing around 700 people throughout the day between the lunch and dinner option, which is a fairly large number for a small nonprofit in Grand Rapids. So it is a very exciting event. And I've seen so much success from the past years that my team has been able to tell me about that it makes me excited to plan this year's and to get that going. And I just want to say too, Misha, as you were talking earlier, one of the things I want to make sure that, is so loud and heard is that you are so right about collaboration. Collaboration is the new currency for 2025, whether you are a nonprofit or a business or privately owned. If you are not willing or able to collaborate, I do think that will be a huge missed opportunity for your organization to do the good work. So, yes, collaboration definitely is key to making sure you're able to do what you need to get done.
Definitely. And congrats on the gala attendance numbers. I mean, that sounds fantastic. I agree with you. It's not easy to get people to attend events in person. So I applaud you for that. And also, really happy to see that you've essentially turned that event upside down in terms of what that looks like. And coming home is so beautiful, it's so profound. And it really also centers that inclusion portion again. So I love that. I mean, a lot of the work that we do in the marketing storytelling space is, like you said earlier, language and
Yeah.
wording. And it's fantastic. You talked about making things better. And I see the role of social media playing a huge part in that. If you could reimagine the role of social media 5 years from now, what would a platform built for belonging look like?
I think a platform built for belonging would look like making sure everybody has a seat at that platform. So making sure that you are able to contribute and to talk freely and openly without the fear of being shut down or being criticized to the point where you're too scared to ever speak again. I think it would be us as a collective embracing platforms and social media and AI and all the new technology and really being able to elevate it and integrate it into our everyday lives to make things easier and to make things better so that we can continue building belonging, working on the things that really are close and near and dear to our work while continuing to build the systems that either make or break our work. So I think we have to be really collaborative with the platforms as they are coming, with the work as it's coming, so that we are not eventually getting drowned out, that we can continue to keep floating and swimming and doing the work while also, right, building the systems to keep it sustainable. So I think that would be my hope is that we can figure out how to integrate the platforms, how to continue making them stronger and better, and working them towards us rather than having that resistance to make them harder towards us.
Absolutely. You mentioned something, Summer, earlier in the conversation, and I wanted to make sure that didn't get lost as we were having a dialogue about some of these topics. I really want to get your opinion on how young leaders, students, individuals who are just starting out in this space that want to use their voice for social impact, where should they begin?
You know, when I started using my voice for social impact, I didn't know I was doing that, right? Like when you are so passionate about something and you want others to be just as passionate or hear your passion, you should post on your own social media first. You should create your own platform, build up your own network of folks, and grow from there. When I started posting on LinkedIn, I had this fear of, am I saying too much? Am I not saying enough? Am I making sense? Am I not making sense? Is this a dumb photo? Is this going to be captivated? Like all these doubts fill my mind. But eventually, I just had to go ahead and post. I had to start posting. And now I have seen that return on investment in terms of that's oftentimes how I make connections with folks.
Hmm.
When I am looking for new opportunities or I'm looking for consulting, whatever it may be, or looking for events that support me and I want to support them, that's oftentimes how I've gotten to these spaces is because I did take that risk of posting on my own social media platforms, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram, and speaking loudly and proudly about what it is that I'm passionate about. Making sure that I do my research so that I can continue helping others educate themselves and maybe see things from a different lens. But I had to make sure that that started with me and then eventually that led to being able to have a job where I can help with social media posts and I can offer that perspective of this landed really well on my audience. I think it would land really well on our company's audience. But I think if any young person out there is listening and they are fearful of starting to post, I think take that first dive, start posting, do your research on what it is you'd like to post and figure out what it looks like for you to do that. And if you have any fear or doubt, lean into your circle. You should have a lot of good people in your circle. If you don't already, start looking for that. And when I say lean into your circle, I really encourage people to have folks who don't look like them, who see things from a different perspective than them in their circle as well, because oftentimes we are in silos and we know our friends agree with us, but what does it look like from somebody on the opposite end to read the message that I'm writing? How is it being received everywhere? I think is really helpful. So I think if anybody right now is listening and they want to start this journey, I say start on your own page. See how that feels so you can build your confidence, you can build your skill set, and build that muscle on what it looks like to keep working on these things while also simultaneously making sure you are talking to folks who look like you, who don't look like you, who speak the same language as you, who don't speak the same language as you. So you can get this diverse perspective so that you truly are living out this inclusive, belonging social media content while also being true to yourself.
So thoughtful. I 100% agree with you. And it's very inspiring to see more and more people getting into the space of social impact and caring about what's happening in the world around them. And I always say, if there is one thing you could change in the world right now, what would it be? And that holds for my students, but also for clients in the space who are doing this work, who want to be more involved in community impact, but they don't really know where to begin and how to plan and align those efforts. So, partnering up with a local nonprofit, hosting community events, talking to people who are working in the same space that you want to work in, and just having those conversations to your point, and just getting a more diverse and global perspective is very, very key to this. I personally have been very fortunate that I've been able to immigrate and live in different countries and meet so many fantastic people and students and clients from all over the world. So I see that as a privilege. I see that as an opportunity to expand the lens that I see the world through. And part of that also, in my opinion, builds the empathy and the curiosity we need to see, okay, if this issue isn't happening in my backyard, it doesn't mean I shouldn't care about it. It doesn't mean that I don't have a way to make a small change, like one step at a time.
Absolutely, Misha. I think something you said was so important that community impact starts in the community, right? It starts with community. Any type of social impact, I do think it starts with yourself and with the community that you are in, because without each other, we have nothing. If we are not willing to stand for folks that we look like or don't look like, we have no community. If things are happening across the world and you feel like it is so far out of your control, you still have the ability to make a difference here. One of the things we always say at AYA is if you can't give financially, if you can't give basic resources, that's okay. The only thing I want you to do when you leave here today is to tell somebody about us. Tell somebody about what you've learned about us.
Mhm.
Because word of mouth is also social community impact, telling folks about things happening in the world, notifying people that things are happening that they should be caring about is just a form of resistance as well as a financial contribution or giving of something. All these things are forms of resistance that lead to community social impact. And that I think is something we overlook a lot. You don't have to have all the money in the world. You don't have to have all the problems solved in the world. But what you can do is use your voice all over the world, no matter where you are, to make that impact.
I love it. Summer, is there anything we didn't cover today that you'd like to share with our listeners?
No, I feel so good. I'm so appreciative, Misha, that you are doing this podcast and that you are bringing, awareness to so many things that will hopefully lead to more community impact and to social impact around the globe. So thank you.
Thank you so much for a thoughtful, inspiring conversation. Truly made my day. And your work at the intersection of belonging, nonprofit leadership, and education really shows how social impact is built one community, one initiative, and one story at a time. So appreciate you being here. To our listeners, if you'd like to learn more about Summer's work, visit AYA Youth Collective. I will include it in the show notes and connect with her on LinkedIn. And if this episode sparked ideas for how you can use digital media for good, make sure to follow, share, and leave us a review. Until next time, I'm Misha Kuze, and I'll see you in the next episode.